Namaste. Welcome to our deep dive on bank pension updation for retirees. I am Priyanka Chakraborty and my co-host is my colleague Anil Agarwal. Today, we are getting under the bonnet of the bank pension updation saga to address every retiree's concern, the inordinate time it's taken the courts to conclude the MC Singla case and deliver badly needed updation justice to retirees.
Spot on, Priya. No, this podcast isn't just another lame analysis of the stalled Singla Supreme Court case and IBA gamesmanship. In this episode, we are taking our cues from the Supreme Court and ask some tough questions. For instance, the wisdom of AIBRAF's single-track strategy of waiting on the Supreme Court decision as IBA prefers, or whether the time is ripe for AIBRAF to change tack by appealing to the court of public opinion, because many retirees now believe rightly or wrongly that adjournments will continue till the death of the last surviving pensioner, a very unfortunate position.
As a starter for 10, a public relations campaign to win the hearts and mind of ordinary Indian citizens by making the case of bank pension retirees denied updation relatable to them. IBA may not like the optics of such a campaign for its members. Secondly, despite the loss in 2017 of the so-called 100% dearness case at the Supreme Court, AIBRAF at Alia deployed excellent negotiation skills to win 100% DA effective October 2023. AIBRAF proved that in updation negotiations, the Supreme Court, important as it is not the only path to a success.
AIBRAF has fought diligently and valiantly for over 8 years to secure updation for bank pension retirees, and the fight is still ongoing. What we're doing today is unpack AIBRAF's current strategy on the issue by looking at a key document the All India Bank Retirees Federation released to its allies, members and supporters on 20 April 2024, right?
It helps us understand the specific legal hurdles the Indian Banks Association, the IBA, is putting up, and importantly, how an old legal fight is, shaping what's happening right now. You need to see that connection.
Absolutely. In recent years, as you know, AIBRAF EAF have pushed hard for pension updation, and recently there was this half-house 5-year ex gratia agreement with IBA. Not quite the lasting settlement bank pension retirees wanted, since the retirees' main demand updation seems stuck tied directly to the late MC Singla court case. So, let's dig into that link.
Okay, let's set the scene. March 8th, 2024, the 12th bipartite settlement is signed. And yes, it includes this ex gratia amount for pensioners. It's immediate relief, something tangible, which sounds like progress. But then there's the catch.
There's always a catch, isn't there? It's par for the course with IBA. In the settlement document, the IBA put it in writing. They said they would only, and I quote, examine and consider the updation demand after they get the outcome of court cases, or words to that effect.
Specifically mentioning the MC Single case, which is pending in the Supreme Court.
So, they're using the court case as a shield basically, a way to postpone dealing with bank retirees' core demand. Updation.
Precisely. And look, this isn't a new trick from their playbook. You have to remember, back in 2015, the 10th bipartite settlement box.
Okay,
The demand then was different. It was for 100% dearness allowance, DA for retirees who left before November 2002.
and the IBA's response? Same tactic. They refused to negotiate on the 100% dearness allowance, DA, because they said the matter was sub judice, or currently under a judge of the High or Supreme Court. It was already in court, right? It's in court, so we can't touch his defense. So what happened with that DA fight? Because that history seems really relevant. Here,
It's absolutely critical. The retiree associations fought that DA case all the way to the Supreme Court. And, in 2017, they lost.
they lost the court case.
Yes, they did. Which you'd think would validate the IBA's position, right? Game over. Done. End of the road.
Yeah, seems like it. But here's the thing. The AIBRAF and others, they didn't just pack up and go home after the court loss. No, they put on their negotiating gloves and continued the fight. They kept pushing, years of sustained negotiating, meetings, follow-ups, and so on.
Wow. So, even after losing in the highest court, even after. And it took time, a good few years after that 2017 defeat. But finally, in October 2023, they got it. The 100% DA demand was met through negotiation, although AIBRAF and its allies had lost at the Supreme Court around 6 years earlier.
That's incredible. It really shows that a court loss isn't necessarily the end of the road. Negotiating muscle can sometimes win where legal arguments fail.
Exactly. It's a powerful precedent.
So, bringing it back to today, the IBA is pulling the same move with pension updation, pointing to this MC Singla case. We absolutely have to understand what this Singla case is all about then. Why is it the linchpin?
Okay, let's break down the single case. Its origins go way back, 2008, filed as a civil writ number 6223 in the Punjab and Haryana High Court.
And who filed it?
MC Singla and 8 others, they were all retirees from Punjab National Bank, PNB.
Okay, and what were they asking for in 2008?
Their core demand was parity. They wanted their pensions updated, brought in line with the scheme used for the Reserve Bank of India, RIB retirees, and importantly, the central government pension scheme. Trying to level the playing field, essentially.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But you said the IBA is using this case now. So the Supreme Court isn't about the broad principle of parity anymore, is it?
No, not directly, because it's now at the Supreme Court level on appeal and the focus gets very narrow. The entire outcome hinges on how the court interprets just 3 specific documents from way back in the 1990s. It's a risky development for the retirees.
3 documents from 30 years ago. That's it?
Yes, that's the legal battlefield. Now, first there's Clause 12 of the Memorandum of Settlement from October 29th, 1993. This is the one that initially said rules could be made for updation via negotiation. The Supreme Court hinted at this other path to pension updation, perhaps as an alternative to litigation.
Yeah, real food for thought. Okay, document 1 was Clause 12, 1993. What's the second?
Second is Regulation number 56 of the Pension Regulations from 1995. This regulation basically says if there's any doubt about interpreting the pension rules, you should look at the corresponding rules for central civil servants, the 1972 rules.
And those central rules allow for updation.
Yes, they do. So the retirees hoped Regulation 56 was a backdoor to updation if doubt could be shown.
Got it. And the third document, the minutes from a small committee meeting held on March 26, 1994. Presumably, this meeting discussed how to act on Clause 12 from Clause 93.
So, a clause suggesting rules could be made, a regulation potentially linking to other rules that allow updation and minutes from a meeting. That's what this huge legal battle rests on.
Yes. And one of the lower courts has already bowled a fast body line on the aspirations of retirees for updation with its ruling. The single bench judge, Justice K. Cannon, looked at it and said, "Sure, the 93 agreement talked about making rules for updation, but in the final pension regulations approved in 1995, they didn't actually include an updation provision. So the judge ruled there was no vested right to updation."
A vested right, that's the key legal term the IBA is probably clinging to.
Absolutely. And the judge added something else significant. He basically said the retirees should use their bargaining skill through their associations to get updation. That's almost like a direct challenge to AIBRAF and its allies, right?
Ouch. Kind of like saying this isn't a legal right we can enforce. Go back and negotiate better with IBA and bring along your fastest bowler and A game.
Pretty much. It frames it as an industrial relations issue, not a guaranteed entitlement under the existing rules. And the Division Bench Appeal Court agreed.
Really? How so?
They said Clause 12 only meant further negotiations were possible, not that updation was promised, and Regulation 56 only useful if real doubt was proven, which they felt the petitioners hadn't done.
So the case lost in the lower courts based on a strict reading of those documents, and now it's in the Supreme Court as SLP number 53561 of 2016.
Correct. And crucially, at this appeal stage, you can't just bring in new arguments or broader principles. The Supreme Court is likely to focus only on whether the lower courts correctly interpreted those three specific documents regarding that vested right.
This highlights a potential problem for the retirees, doesn't it? The IBRAF seems to think so.
Exactly. The AIBRF's position, as I understand it, from their communications is that while they have to deal with the single case because the IBA made it the roadblock, the case itself is, well, legally narrow, too narrow.
This aligns with IBRAF's view that the case is missing the bigger picture argument.
Precisely. It doesn't really allow for arguing the fundamental principles that they believe justify updation systemically.
Okay, this is fascinating. So, what are these key arguments the IBRAF feels are crucial but aren't really part of the Singla legal fight?
They list about four main concepts. First, the very nature of a defined benefit pension scheme.
Right. Unpack that for us. Why is that concept itself an argument for updation?
Well, a defined benefit scheme promises a certain payout based on your service and salary, right? It's meant to provide security. But if that defined amount is fixed, say in 1995, and never adjusted, inflation just eats it away over time.
Completely erodes it. So, a pension that was decent then becomes poverty level income decades later. Failing to update, they argue, fundamentally breaks the promise of a defined benefit scheme, which is supposed to offer genuine long term security.
That makes total sense. The benefit loses its meaning and value without updation. What's the second point?
It ties into the first, the concept of social welfare and security. Pensions aren't just deferred wages, they're a social agreement with the state, part of the welfare system.
And not updating pensions undermines that social contract between the state, bank pension retirees, and other Indian citizens.
Yes. And it leads directly to their third point, the issue of discriminatory treatment. Think about it. Someone who retired in 1995 gets a vastly smaller pension in real terms than someone with similar service retiring in, say, 2015 or 20, even though they contributed to the same system, worked for the same banks.
Exactly. It creates classes of retirees based solely on their date of retirement. That feels inherently unfair, discriminatory.
And the final point IBRAF emphasizes, you mentioned a specific case earlier.
Ah yes, the big one. The principles from the D.S. Nakara Veti Union of India, 1982. A landmark case on right to equality in India.
What did D.S. Nakara establish?
It basically laid down the principle particularly for government schemes that pensioners form a single class. You can't arbitrarily divide them based on retirement date for pensionary benefits. It strongly supports the idea of parity and updation to maintain the value of pensions for all retirees within a scheme.
So, Nakara provides a powerful legal and moral precedent for updation based on equality.
Immensely powerful. But the challenge is the single case being focused on those three specific 1990s documents might not fully engage with these broader Nakara principles.
Okay, so let me see if I've got this right. The actual court case, MC Singla, is very technical, focused on interpreting old documents about whether a vested right was created back then.
Correct.
But the IBRAF's real fight, the negotiating push, is much broader. It's about the purpose of pensions, social fairness, fighting discrimination, and leaning on the Nakara precedent.
You've nailed it. The legal track is narrow. The negotiation track is wide. The outcome of Singla will matter tactically, but it won't decide the war, only this particular battle.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up. Where does this leave things? Now, the IBA has paragraph 36 and the pending Singla case. It's their handy tool to delay, right?
Yeah, it's their shield, their justification for kicking the can down the road on updation. Wait for the court, they keep saying. But AIBRAF, hardened by that long fight for 100% DA, seems determined to push on regardless of how the Singla case concludes.
That's the clear message. IBRAF knows the legal case is tight, but they're prepared to continue the fight by emphasizing those broader principles, fairness, social security, the Nakara precedent, whatever the Supreme Court decides on the narrow interpretation of those three documents.
Which leads us to a final thought for you, our listener. We've seen how the 100% DA was won through sheer persistence after a court defeat. Does the path to pension updation lie in the fine print of those 1990s documents being argued in a rather narrow case? Or does it depend more on sustained and powerful negotiations, the kind that successfully won the 100% DA case? What do you think is ultimately the more decisive factor here?
Anil, great summary, thank you.
Thank you to our listeners. If you liked this episode, please share it and subscribe for our next episode on this crucial matter.